Huh? What are you so worked up about? Oh, I get it now. I stole your thunder, huh? That move was your ace in the hole, and I just annihilated it!
Satoru Gojo and Accelerator stand as titans within their respective universes, both renowned for their overwhelming power and nigh impenetrable defense. Gojo from JJK wields 6 eyes and Limitless. 6 eyes grants him unparalleled perception of cursed energy, while Limitless allows him to manipulate space itself, creating an infinite distance between himself and any attack. This isn't simply repulsion, it's a fundamental alteration of space, creating an infinite number of infinitesimal gaps between himself and any incoming threat, making it impossible for anything to reach him. This infinite distance manifests in various ways. Accelerator, from a certain magical index, possesses vector manipulation, a far more versatile ability. He can control the direction and magnitude of any vector, including those of force, energy, and even information. This allows him not only to reflect incoming attacks, but also manipulate the movement of objects with incredible precision, control, and energy, and even influence the very fabric of reality itself on a small scale. Accelerator's power lies in his understanding of the fundamental principles that govern the universe, allowing him to predict and manipulate the behavior of any object or phenomena that can be described by vectors. This grants him not only unparalleled defense, but also a wide array of offensive capabilities, from launching projectiles at high speeds to manipulating the flow of energy for devastating attacks. Both characters demonstrate a profound understanding of the fundamental nature of realities. This deep understanding, coupled with their demonstrated dominance over countless powerful foes, solidifies their position as one of the strongest within their respective universes. However, it's crucial to remember that the term strongest is subjective and can vary depending on specific circumstances. It's no secret that both Accelerator and Gojo have been defeated in the past by those they didn't expect. Regular people who have had the ability to bypass their defensive abilities and make them experience real pain for the first time. But neither of them were ever really in any danger. Gojo grasped the fundamental nature of cursed energy, and Kamijo Toma never actually intended to kill Accelerator. However, what if these two were to encounter a being a lot more ruthless, an indestructible lizard with the power to survive the destruction of creation? What if Gojo and Accelerator encountered SCP-682? Would their defensive barriers protect them? Or would SCP-682 adapt and send them on a one-way trip to hell? SCP-682 is a creature defying conventional biological understanding and is the strongest of adapters in fiction. It possesses an unparalleled capacity for adaptation and evolution. A man named Dr. Gears aptly described it as a thing inhabiting a biological shell, operating outside the constraints of our own biology. This thing transcends the limitations of time, space, and matter, making it akin to playing checkers against chess, the same board but entirely different rules and pieces. Its resilience is astonishing. It shrugged off SCP-668's powerful, mind-altering signals, unaffected by its psychic influence. It withstood the terrifying effects of SCP-1437, a gateway to a parallel universe that obliterates all life. In a confrontation with SCP-2722, 682 not only survived some atomic annihilation, but also grew to its opponent's size, achieving untraceable speeds. It hurled 2722 across the Andromeda Galaxy and effortlessly absorbed the devastating energy of 2722's Grand Wave Motion Cannon and attacked and obliterated an entire constellation. Despite these feats, 2722's attempts to banish 682 to the Andromeda Galaxy proved futile, as 682 promptly reappeared in its containment cell. It neutralized SCP-2617 by emitting radio waves that dissipated its cloud form. It destroyed its subordinate entities and even erased the concept of Russia from the minds of the supervising attendees. It recovered from being transformed into a house cat by SCP-1237, While asleep, it utilized SCP-513's power to create illusionary copies of itself, causing mass hysteria and resulting significant casualties among personnel. Exposure to SCP-999 granted it the ability to induce uncontrollable laughter. It returned to the Foundation despite being traded to SCP-702's pocket dimension and transported to an alternate universe by SCP-507. It remained unaffected by SCP-2140, an entity capable of rewriting the past. Exposure to SCP-683 granted it the ability to shift between organic and inorganic states at will. It demonstrated invulnerability to SCP-682. SCP-738, being capable of fulfilling virtually any request, acknowledged the near impossibility of destroying 682 without catastrophic consequences for the universe. SCP-343 declined to eliminate it. Exposure to SCP-536 enhanced its resilience against extreme conditions, enabling it to withstand the destruction of its physical form down to the quark level. It displayed immunity to SCP-811's corrosive mucus, ultimately developing a complete resistance. It survived reality warping, constant submersion in hydrochloric acid, crystallization by SCP-409, and absorption by SCP-17, eventually absorbing its powers and utilizing them to breach containment. It was considered too dangerous to expose SCP-123 due to the potential for power absorption. Its resilience was further demonstrated by survival of an event on the moon, where it was subjected to the detonation of 20 billion hydrogen bombs and 750 organic bombs. Not only did it survive this devastating onslaught, but it also grew to the size of Saturn, consuming planets in its path.
When I break out of this containment, they will regret ever attempting to control me.
Very impressive. A heroic speech. Tell me, did you just come up with that, or have you been practicing?
The battle begins in the ruins of a torn-apart city by 682's rampage. Despite their vastly different personalities and approaches, Gojo, Satoru, and Accelerator recognize the magnitude of the threat. Both prepare for a fight unlike anything they faced before. Gojo's Limitless stops SCP-682 immediately. The creature's massive claws swipe at the air, but unable to bypass the infinite barrier separating him from Gojo. Gojo observes his futile attempts with a smug grin. Meanwhile, Accelerator establishes his vector shield, effortlessly deflecting the shockwaves and debris that 682 generates with its movements, redirecting chunks of rubble and entire buildings at supersonic speeds towards the creature. The attacks slam into 682, but fail to leave even a scratch. Gojo takes the offensive, using blue, red, and purple to devastate the battlefield. The immense gravitational force tear 682 apart repeatedly, but the creature regenerates faster than Gojo can inflict meaningful damage. Recognizing Gojo's techniques, 682 begins to adapt. It develops cursed energy and mimics domain amplification, bypassing infinity entirely. With newfound speed and overwhelming strength, it blitzes Gojo before he can react. Desperate, Gojo unleashes
領域展開無料空所
For a brief moment, 682 falters, overwhelmed by the influx of infinite information, but even within the domain, it learns, adapting to resist the domain's effects entirely. It strikes Gojo with such force that his body crumbles, leaving him incapacitated and unable to move. With Gojo out of the fight, Accelerator steps up. 682 charges, but his attacks are instantly nullified by Accelerator's vector barrier, casually redirecting 682's momentum back on itself, sending it crashing into the ground. The creature rises undeterred and attempts another attack. Accelerator adjusts his calculations, using his ability to manipulate vectors to redirect 682's kinetic energy. 682 begins to falter, but 682's greatest strength is its adaptability. After several failed attempts, it learns to counter Accelerator's vectors by either adapting to mimic the Kihara counter, a technique designed to specifically bypass the ability, or by developing a conceptual immunity to vector manipulation. The first signs of adaptation are subtle. 682's claws breach the edge of the barrier for a split second before being repelled. Then his strikes grow faster and more precise until one attack finally lands, forcing Accelerator to retreat momentarily. But depending on the version, 682 could also radiate electrical signals that disrupt the electrode on his neck. Realizing the situation is escalating, Accelerator pushes his calculations into overdrive, analyzing every possible combination of vectors to outpace 682's adaptation. He manipulates gravity, magnetism, and even molecular interactions, trying to find a weakness. When that fails, he begins calculating imaginary vectors, and he calculates millions of possibilities in seconds. However, despite his supercomputer-like brain, he finds himself at a stalemate. After a prolonged and grueling battle, Accelerator realizes that his standard abilities, even at their most refined, cannot overcome 682's relentless evolution that could overcome existence erasure and reality manipulation. The air around Accelerator shifts as he taps into his platinum wings, a higher dimensional form that grants him unparalleled control over everything. The battlefield is bathed in an ethereal glow as his wings extend behind him. Accelerator unleashes attacks that can shake the galaxy and manipulate vectors that likely transcend his very dimension. For a moment, it seems the tides have turned. SCP-682 is visibly affected, its body struggling to regenerate under the onslaught of conceptual attacks. But even this ultimate form proves insufficient. SCP-682, having survived similar threats before, adapts once again. It withstands Accelerator's attacks and retaliates with newfound conceptual abilities of its own. Who knows, it might even copy vector manipulation altogether. The battle drags on, with Accelerator pushing his wings to their absolute limit. His calculations grow increasingly complex, trying to account for every possible adaptation 682 could make. But no matter how many times he changes his approach, 682 finds a way to counter. In the end, it becomes clear that while Accelerator can defend himself indefinitely, he has no way to truly harm 682. Gojo lies unconscious, and Accelerator, while still standing, acknowledges the futility of continuing the fight. 682, now fully adapted to wolf their abilities, roars in triumph as it marches onward.